Hi all, this is the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams and this is an extra show, and it's an appeal in many ways due to current and certain events that are ongoing at the moment. There will be a full show tomorrow. I couldn't fit all this in and then do tomorrow's show, which is packed already, so we'll look forward to that. But the gist of this, and I want to make things quite clear right at the start, is that many things are going very well currently and all is on track, but we have a slight problem that needs addressing, and this needs to be brought forward quickly. And given the fact that certain top people in the government are under heavy restraint at the moment, it was decided to use this show to make an appeal. So this is an emergency broadcast on behalf of all the people who hold America dear to their hearts. Notice I said America, not the United States. The United States of America is a corporation and recorded as USA Inc. in Delaware under the banner of operating as US government. It's not the government. Operating as government is not actual government. Our country has been hijacked by various rogue organisations and entities literally from day one. Our history was and is a lie of massive proportions. We have had no government or constitution since 1871. Check it out yourself. Constitution of and Constitution for are not one and the same thing. With that established, we go on to why this show has been made. Often we refer in the shows, the regular shows, of stuff going on behind the scenes, which can frustrate some. They want to see the visual aspect. But I would ask, how visual would you like it to be? I always advise, be careful what you wish for. On Sunday, we sent a message direct to Mr. Trump on the tarmac, warning him of danger and preferably to not fly to Singapore, or maybe even it was China. Either way, Trump decided to go ahead and meet up with the original Asian family patsy, Kim Jong-un, to basically humiliate Trump and America in the public glare. Well, that was their plan, but that didn't work out too well for the Rothschilds-led families group, but more about that later. On Sunday, to prevent this peace meeting going ahead, a missile was launched out of the naval base of Whidbey Island in Washington state in an attempt, according to all sources, to knock Air Force One and Trump out of the sky. Due to a change of narrative between Mr. Trump and Kim Jong-un, basically a peace deal was worked out long before Trump left, and Kim went against Asian families instead, and peace broke out between the countries. Now, Trump was being flanked or guarded by rogue Black Dragon groups, so they knew exactly where he was at all times, and this is why we asked him or pleaded with him not to go. So to recap, some rogue elements within our own country and military fired a missile at the President of America. Just let that sink in for a minute. To some in the alternative community, or most for that matter, it will come as no surprise. For the average guy on the street and many of the soldiers under their command, this idea is preposterous. But is it? This country has been under attack from within from before and since 1776, whereby we allegedly declared our independence from those meddling Brits, except most who drafted that document were British Freemasons who held alliance for them, not America. Currently, vast funds are being sieved out of our economy on military budgets, except most of it is not reaching soldiers for equipment, wages or health, but being siphoned out into black budget projects and a group called the Military Industrial Complex, who are in alliance with the Navy-led group known as SSP, as in the Secret Space Program, aka Nazi Space Program. A plethora of underground bunkers are dotted all over America, have use of advanced technology that they are denying the public the right to. Islands all over the world housing vast complexes of hardware and software, all at the American people's expense. These people, along with the bloodline families, covens and parents, have ran this world for a long time, but that is changing quietly and in some cases spectacularly, and we will go forward at a steady pace. These people have zero morals, zero compassion, zero common sense, and operate like giant batteries, sucking all the life out of the people for an end goal of world domination, more commonly known as the New World Order. George Herbert Walker Bush spit, addressing his people, not us, that they would have it in a speech back in 1990 in front of the treasonous body known as Congress. It is Congress, the same organisation that brought in the foreign-owned, the Crown Federal Reserve Bank. That bank is not American, never was, no matter what you were taught at school. Now, the date of the George Herbert Walker Bush New World Order speech should not be overlooked or cast out as a coincidence. These people are deliberate in their actions. The date was September the 11th, exactly 11 years before the event that sent America into a shock-induced comatose state for many years. And only recently are many coming out of that slumber. You don't think Americans would attack Trump? Americans attacked Americans on 9/11, the evidence of which is now overwhelming to anyone with more than a few brain cells. Reality is we have a cancer within our midst at the top end of all branches of military. It pervades right through all the various agencies set up in the last 70 years, most of which are Nazi-ran, whose goals is to spy and subvert the American people. National security and homeland security are both names that have been lifted out of the SS in Nazi Germany. Same purpose, same people. America is the Fourth Reich. Researching Operation Paperclip and Operation Overcast will help those people to understand who don't. These are the same people who have done heinous experiments on people known as MKUltra and various other heinous research programs, all hidden from the public eye. These people are supported financially by money stolen from us via the financial skullduggery of Rockefellers, Rothschilds, DuPonts, Astors, Bushes and Saudi Group, JP Morgan, Soros, Kissinger, Cheney and many other names to mention, all at the behest of a person known as M. Acker Marduk. You can tune in tomorrow for more details on him and the groups. So the war is now fully on, and we have traitors not only to America on our soil, but traitors to humanity to boot. These soulless entities care not for the precious state of life, only dark forces agendas that wish to carry out the near total genocide of humanity to the tune of 90% of us. 90%. Research Agenda 21 on the UN website, another rogue group. Many will say, I don't think they can do that, except they wiped out 90% of Native Americans. They wiped out 90% of the cream of the nation in Russia in 1919 under the fake banner of Russian Revolution. It wasn't a revolution. It was a genocide of epic proportions which history until recently has failed to acknowledge or recognise. The Great War ongoing now is ultimately a battle of light and dark. It has been fought many times in the past when we had insufficient resources to fight back. This time it is and will be different and will be ended once and for all. There is a joke that asks, how many cabal would it take to change a light bulb? The answer is none. Why? Because they love embracing the darkness, where they can run about like the cockroaches they are, all hidden from the prying eyes of a largely unaware public gaze. For those of you who have served in the American military over the last 100 years, it saddens me greatly most of you thought you were fighting for freedom and your country. To say you were fighting for neither of those valid causes will be a shock to many. But every battlefield arena you have put your lives at risk has been at the behest of these same psychopaths playing their game of death and destruction. nothing to do with America and its freedoms. Many of you are proud that you have medals of honor and distinction, except that is the mind-controlled programming that has allowed you to think in those terms of badges for taking part in killing people is not something an advanced society should be handing out like candy. They are badges of dishonor to our species, because we have not fought wars to defend ourselves or freedom, but cripple or eliminate countries and groups just because they get in their way of their New World Order machine. Time we gave badges out for peace, methinks. It saddens me greatly how all of you have been used in such a callous way. Many people wonder why our military haven't done something about our situation here yet. The answer is simple, and it may come as a surprise to many. They are not our military. I repeat, they are not our military. The military, or the US military as it's known, is owned on one side by the Rothschilds and the Asian families, aka the Chinese elders, or two, the Jesuits via the Vatican since the 1600s, according to them. And yet we, the American people, pay for it all, between 700 billion and 1.1 trillion per year for something that we don't own or get use of or get any benefits out of. And yet it doesn't operate on our behalf, we the people, the ones who pay for it. American troops, in case some don't know, are not allowed to engage on American soil to defend us. Don't believe me? Check it out yourself. But those at the top end, the ones firing missiles and subverting justice, are the same people that in the last 2 years sold all American military hardware to an Asian group, not Chinese government, I might add. I must stress that. And they have been leasing it back for the last 2 years. The trust, which is Manor World Holding Trust, has been negotiating for an end to that deal over many months now. And yet the media people and the government and the military and the agencies all tell you we're in competition with Russia, China, etc. And here we have top brass within our military selling all our military hardware, which yet again was paid for by the American people, I might add, to the so-called enemies of our country. The reality will come as a surprise to many. We have no enemies in other countries. None. All of them are working together just to create the illusion of division. Because at the top end of all the countries lies cabal agenda people, all colluding with one another and yet portraying they are enemies. Look at how many times America has given up so-called top secret material and vast quantities of funds and military hardware to Israel, which they then sold on to China. Some ally that, except it's all an illusion. They all work together, like the spy network known as Five Eyes. Actually, it's 9. Well, actually now it's 8, as we poked at least one of their eyes out. Expect others to follow. But the CIA, Mossad, MI5/6, GCHQ, the Chinese network, and would you believe it, given all the anti-Russian narrative in this country for the last 70 plus years, they work with the KGB, all working together under the Five Eyes network. They all spy on each other's countries, not for so-called secrets of military and plans, but they're all operating under the same plan, but to share the information with each country so the KGB can legally spy on Americans, and it gets round the laws of the country about spying on their own citizens. I kid you not. The Americans asked the KGB to spy on Americans, so it gets round the country's laws. KGB and Langley are working together, which makes a complete mockery of Russian collusion and everything, does it not? So, what are the solutions? Well, solutions are simple, with a change of mindset. It can sometimes be easy, but often very hard, as people hold on to the lie far closely than they embrace the truth. But the question is, are you wise enough